Welcome to Task Force Admiral, a game that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. Now, full disclosure, before we get into the rest of the video, I have been provided with an early access key in order to take a look at what is available currently. The entire demo is effectively one giant replay. I'm not actually in control of any of the units that you see here. What I do have control of is the camera. Now, I was trying to figure out the controls as I was recording a lot of this for the first time, so bear with me if some of the shots don't look perfect and cinematic and so on. It's me fiddling around with the camera controls, getting used to them. I should hasten to add that everything you see here is subject to change. Nothing is final. This is still very early development, all things considered. And I really want to emphasize that all of this was coded by one guy. Yeah. I believe the entire permanent team for Task Force Admiral consists of exactly 3 people. So, considering that this was put together by 3 people, this is pretty impressive. I'm going to return to this theme again and again throughout this video, but 1942 Pacific Theater never looked so good. Now, before I go any further, I should probably talk about what is Task Force Admiral. Task Force Admiral is a naval game set within the period of 1942 World War II in the Pacific, with a special focus on the carrier duels that took place throughout 1942 between the Imperial Japanese Navy and the United States Navy. Now, while the war in the Pacific is very carrier-centric, and a lot of the game's systems, from what I understand, are focused around that, the game is also going to have a significant surface combat element as well, so you can expect that in the future. However, for today, it's just a carrier duel. Now, I didn't have access to all of the controls and the management systems because this is just a replay that we have been given access to. But I really want to draw your attention to the visuals here on display because I have not seen another World War II naval game look this good, period. This is by far the best looking naval game I've ever seen. By the way, check out this shot. Does this not look like World War II Victory at Sea footage in color? This game is gorgeous. I can't stop gushing about it. I'm sorry. You're going to hear that a lot more from me today. Another thing I want to point your attention to is the fact that all of this is being handled by the AI. This was not being handled by a player taking direct control and ordering them to do this. The AI is doing all of this. And not only are they reacting in a reasonable manner, but it looks natural too. Yeah, it'd be one thing if they were trying to react in a certain way and they were trying to do the right things, but it looks bad. They're doing both. They're reacting to the threat. The Hornet here is making turns to avoid the torpedoes on its port side, and it will make another turn to avoid the torpedoes on its starboard side. So check this out. Like, if this doesn't give you an idea of the sorts of carrier maneuvers that are going on during this period, I don't know what does. If you read the accounts of a lot of these carrier duels between the Japanese and the Americans, especially in 1942, a large part of the defense of these carriers is not as much the anti-aircraft guns, it's the ability of the helm to move these ships in such a way that they dodge incoming aerial bombardment, either with torpedoes or with aerial bombs, etc. And you can see just how maneuverable a ship even this big can be when it's got a properly trained helm. Very, very close. Unfortunately, it looks like the Enterprise there took a bomb hit or a torpedo hit in the background. Probably a torpedo hit. Something else I want to draw your attention to, if you look closely at these anti-aircraft guns, you will notice they are all engaging their own targets. They are grouped into batteries, but each individual anti-aircraft gun is modeled separately and will pick its own targets to engage. These are the 1.1-inch Chicago pianos. These were replaced by 40mm Bofors later in the war. Although I'm not sure if the Hornet ever got access to them. I'm sure somebody will will let me know in the comments section. Just take a look at the flak barrage that's being put up here. I have never seen another game do a flak barrage right. And this is by far the first game that I've seen actually put up a flak barrage that looks believable and realistic. Alright everyone, we're going to switch gears here, and we're going to swap over to the SBDs as they're going to be going into their dive bombing runs here in a moment against these Japanese carriers. Again, I want to direct your attention to the flak barrages that are going up here. These are not just thrown willy-nilly all over the sky. These are directed anti-aircraft barrages that are trying to find the range and zero in on these SBDs as they start to go in for their dive runs here. So here they go. They're popping the air brakes. Looks great. This is kind of a suboptimal angle to be engaging a Japanese carrier in a dive here. You can see that they're currently perpendicular, but that's rapidly changing. Again, you can see the flak barrages are desperately trying to dissuade the number 1 SBD there from releasing its bomb on target. And you can see that the Japanese carrier is making really hard turns. That was a very close miss. That was a good hit. And bombs away. That was a very close miss as well. You can see there's a couple of torpedoes there in the water, probably from a couple of the torpedo bombers, and those are some good hits along the length of the carrier. Now, I doubt that this is modeled currently, but even a very, very close bomb hit along the side of a ship like a carrier can do some serious damage. Think about it, it's effectively like getting hit with a torpedo. And one of the issues that some of these early Japanese carriers ran into when they started taking close-in aboard bomb hits was that, for example, their fire control or their damage control lines, well, the pipes, a lot of them were made of iron. And when they were subjected to the shock of a close bomb hit, a lot of them broke or cracked, and they would lose pressure to their damage control lines, which contributed, among many other things, to the poor performance of a lot of Japanese ships in terms of damage control during the Second World War. In fact, one of the tests that is conducted with modern U.S. carriers is to actually detonate a large explosive underwater nearby the carrier in order to see if anything breaks. Better that they find out then than the first time that they were in combat. You can see here this SBD is being jumped by a Zero. And in fact, let's swap over to some footage of an aerial battle, because I want to show that off for you guys. Okay, so this is the same battle, but about 20 minutes earlier, near the start of the engagement, and a couple of F4F Wildcats have been vectored out by the carriers to intercept an incoming Japanese strike. And again, what I want to emphasize here is that despite the fact that these are being flown by AI, the aerial maneuvers look natural. It doesn't look forced, which is quite the achievement. I can name any number of games set in this theater, or any other games that use AI aircraft that simply don't do aerial combat justice. Alright, let's take a look at this high side run here. He's going a little too fast. Yeah, he's trying to overcorrect here, and yeah. Lord knows how many times in the 20 plus years that I've been playing flight sims, I have done that exact maneuver and made this exact mistake. This is not the place you want to be when attacking a formation like this. You are exposed for all of the enemy anti-aircraft gunners, and now you've got a boatload of enemy fighters on your butt. Yeah, not a good place to be, especially in an F4F Wildcat in 1942. Eventually, however, the rest of the Combat Air Patrol shows up, and, well, there's only so many enemy fighters, and there are a lot of targets. This is about as perfect of a target-rich environment as any fighter pilot could hope for during this period. Especially since most of the enemy fighters have been drawn off by the earlier Combat Air Patrol. They have left their bombers here pretty much completely unguarded. And yeah, they do have a rear gunner, but rear gunner only protects you from a very certain aspect. Now, there are some things that are missing here. There are no animations for, like, you know, damaged models of airplane wings being ripped off and stuff like that. And there's no animations for the pilots bailing out when the airplane dies. The pilots just disappear and they dive into the sea. But that's something that will be added, I'm sure. But again, I want you to take a look at how these airplanes are maneuvering through the air. This looks natural. It doesn't look forced. I mean, yeah, these aren't the smartest aerial maneuvers I've ever seen, but the AI is handling all of this, and they're doing it well. Not snapping the airplanes into uncontrollable spins, and, you know, they don't look like they're flying through soup. They look like they're flying an airplane. Now, the last thing here, before I close out the video, is I wanted to direct your attention to how smooth the game plays. I mean, granted, there's not a lot going on here graphically, and if you look closely at the models, yeah, some of them are pretty low poly. But that's okay. Unless you're squinting and you're looking for the very, very, very fine details, the game looks great, and that's pretty much all that's needed. In combination with competent background coding and taking advantage of modern hardware, this gives me hope that the game will run great out of the box whenever it's finally released. Now, I'm not going to give any sort of estimation on when this game will come out. It's been in development for quite a long time, and it's got a lot of development to go, from what I understand. And it'll be done when it's done. And I think it's important that we don't harass the developers about a release date. They want to get this out more than anybody. This has been their baby. But they also want to make sure that it's a great experience when it finally does release. So, that's all I've got today for Task Force Admiral. I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick preview. I realize that I've been kind of radio silent for the last 8 months. And I'll talk about that more on my Discord if you have any questions there. Link to that down below. But this is something that I've been really, really excited about, and I really wanted to show it off to you guys when I got access to it. So, link to the Steam page down below. If you have not heard of this game before and you like the look of it, please wishlist it. Wishlisting games recommends them on Steam more often for other people. Help the developers out, and make sure you wishlist it down below. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has been Many Miles Away. Keep your tracks checked, keep your binos in place, keep it around on the tube, and I will see you guys hopefully on the next video. Hopefully soon.